In China, thousands of troops continue their siege of the regional capital of Xinjiang province following bloody clashes between local Han Chinese and Uyghur residents. 4 days after the violence that left at least 150 dead and over 1,000 injured, reports indicate an unsteady calm has returned to the city of Urumqi. The clashes have been described as the bloodiest ethnic violence China's seen in years. On Wednesday, the exiled Uyghur political activist Rabia Qadir spoke out against the Chinese government from Washington. China has blamed exiled Uyghurs like Qadir for the unrest.
It is the root cause of the problem is the heavy-handed policies imposed by the Chinese Party Secretary Wang Lequan and the Chairman Nur Bekri. And the heavy-handed Chinese repression in the region for decades, has created a very tense situation there when many Uyghur families, their husbands, their sons, and all arrested by the Chinese authorities. Of course, they are not happy under Chinese rule.
We'll have more on the Xinjiang clashes later in the broadcast. Central Intelligence Agency Director Leon Panetta has admitted the CIA has misled Congress on intelligence matters since at least 2001. On Wednesday, a group of 7 Democratic lawmakers released a letter describing Panetta's comments. House Intelligence Committee Chair Sylvester Reyes said CIA officials, quote, affirmatively lied in a recent briefing on an unspecified matter. The news comes as the Obama administration has issued a threat to veto a House intelligence bill if it calls for widening disclosures of CIA operations. The White House is currently required to brief Congressional Intelligence Committee leaders on covert actions. A provision in the bill would allow the committee heads to determine if the briefings can be opened up to other panel members. The House is expected to vote on the Intelligence Authorization Bill later today. Massachusetts has become the first state to challenge the federal law defining marriage as a heterosexual union. On Wednesday, Massachusetts filed a lawsuit in federal court against the 1996 Defense of Marriage Act, which denies federal recognition of gay marriage. Massachusetts says the law is discriminatory and overreaching in denying benefits to same-sex couples and preventing states from defining marriages as they see fit. Massachusetts was the first state to legalize gay marriage. A government whistleblower who accused prosecutors of misconduct in the case against former Alabama Governor Don Siegelman has been fired in what she calls a political retaliation. Siegelman was convicted in a 2006 corruption case, but is free on bail pending appeal. Critics say Siegelman was the target of a political witch hunt, in part orchestrated by former Bush administration Deputy Karl Rove. The whistleblower, Tamara Grimes, was part of the prosecution team. She accused her bosses of several improprieties, including improper contact with jurors and the continued role of a U.S. attorney who dropped out of the case because she was married to the campaign manager of the Republican opponent Siegelman defeated. Grimes called her firing, quote, the price for opposition. In China, 2 prisoners jailed under the watch in Chicago. 2 prisoners jailed under the watch of the disgraced former police commander John Burge have been exonerated and set free after more than 20 years. Ronald Kitchen and Marvin Reeves, both African-Americans, were convicted for the 1988 murders of 5 people. But prosecutors now say there's insufficient evidence linking them to the crimes. The initial case relied on a prisoner who wrongly claimed to have spoken to Kitchen and was also granted an early release for his testimony. Kitchen was also badly beaten while jailed in a prison known for the systematic torture of dozens of African-American men by Chicago police officers. Burge is meanwhile awaiting trial for allegations he lied in a civil suit brought by victims of the torture committed under his command. And in San Francisco, prosecutors have dropped charges against 4 of the 8 former Black Panthers recently charged for the 1971 killing of a police officer. The group is known as the San Francisco 8. They were arrested in 2007, except for 2 who are already in jail serving lengthy sentences. One of the 8, Harold Taylor, and 2 others were first charged with the murder in 1975, but a judge tossed out the charges. The 3 said they made false confessions after police in New Orleans tortured them. This week, prosecutors dropped charges against Taylor, as well as Ray Boudreaux, Henry Jones, and Richard Brown. The 2 San Francisco 8 members already in jail, Anthony Bottom and Herman Bell, have meanwhile pleaded guilty to reduced charges. The lone remaining defendant, Francisco Torres, is scheduled to appear in court next month. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez.